Baltic, C. Oscan, and or D. Nemea.
Did you just say Oscan? We're going to talk about that later. Right now I'm going to say B. Baltic, the keeper. Well, that was very fast, but that's okay because I'm not even sure I know this one.
Oh no!
I know.
I'm mad as shit. The ENJOYYYY champ right here. And you just want fucking Aether people, see? Aether fucking up. Aether fucking up. I'm just gonna say it right now. I'll say it for the people in the back. Aether fucking up. Fuck all y'all on Aether.
Welcome everybody to MogTalk episode 230. Today is Saturday, May 22nd, 2021. If you guys are unfamiliar with MogTalk, it is a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV community discussing everything from Savage Raiding to Chocobo Racing. And today we're going to talk about story and lore before we get into 5.5 coming up on Tuesday here. Before we go too much further into this though, I want to mention something. You guys, well, let's talk about, first before we go too much to it. Moose, tell everybody who you are. I want to everybody know who the guests are and everything before we go into it.
Who I am?
Yeah,
okay.
Moose.
Sure. I'm Anonymoose, primarily an editor and content creator with Gamer Escape, I guess. But I've just been trying to find places to hang out and talk about lore anywhere since 1.0. It's led on some pretty wild adventures to every corner of the fandom. So I'm everywhere and nowhere, and today here.
Okay. All right. Sly, tell everybody who you are.
Hi, I'm Sly. I am on Behemoth on Primal, representing the Primal Boys here. I am the current State of the Realm ENJOYYYY champion. I had the belt. I have the belt. I usually host events once a month on Primal on Behemoth. For first Saturdays for Station WSOY. And yeah, I'm here. Hi.
So, Sly, tell me what the fuck was going on with that video, because I gotta say, man, I'm from Aether, so I feel a little bit of heat coming on.
Okay, all right. You really want to know? I mean, I feel like Moose was the only Primal representative there, like, and he was a lifeline. He was a lifeline. Everybody else was from either Aether or I know Zep's on like Light, I think. No Primal representation. We would have kicked y'all asses. I'm just saying. I'm sorry. We would have like half of and see, you didn't see my like of course I'm going to take jabs at Happy because he's my co-host. You didn't see my first reaction. The very first question, my thing, I'm like, Happy, don't be a bitch. Happy, don't be a bitch. I'm gonna phone a friend. You're gonna be a bitch, Happy, man.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know shit in any of those questions. I wouldn't answer a single one of those questions correctly. So I get it. I get it.
I guess that's why we're having the show. I guess we're having the show now because after that horrible showing, I feel like we need to kind of brush you up on lore a little bit. I'm not saying I'm a lore professional. I am decently versed to the point where I can answer certain questions. I study. Like FS just makes me study. That's it. But you got the right person in Anonymoose here. So glad you did the show.
So let me explain to everybody, because people who've watched the show for a while might know Ethos usually comes on for our lore and story talks, but we fired his ass. That guy, he fucked up, dude. So we did a show called Gillionaire recently, and like Sly was talking about and referencing, and I was on there, and he was my lifeline. Now, it came to the turn where it was my turn to answer a question, right? And I didn't know this at the time, but of course, it was literally the only question I got asked. The entire show. I was asked one question, and I was like, this sounds like a really difficult question. Nightfall Company? Who knows anything about Night? Well, you know what? Ethis can come and save the day, right? Well, Sly knows about it, apparently. Sly knows. So I'm like, well, let me use my lifeline to trusty Ethis to get my team one question right. That's all we need to do. And I call his ass up, and he doesn't pick up, right? Doesn't pick up at all, leaves me dead in the water, and I have to make a complete guess at what that answer is going to be. And I got it wrong, unfortunately, with 1 in 3 chance. Then I fucking found out he made that question. He made the question, the only question I was able to get a chance to answer. He made the most difficult question possible, so I couldn't answer it. So, that's it. Ethis is gone. Sorry. Rest in peace, man.
I'm sorry you took that bullet, man. He made that question specifically to screw with me. Yeah, he was just testing. Like, there's one mention of it in the entire game, and he rolled the dice to see if my brain meats bothered to encode that into the neural network, and it did not.
But for real, though, Ethis has some prior engagements he needs to handle this weekend, and he might be even in chat every once in a while he's doing stuff, but he unfortunately couldn't make it this time. But yeah, no, for people who are still confused about that, because he made that question, he wasn't able to answer it. And I didn't know. No one knew. There was a couple of landfall ones in there. The one Moose put in there was the elemental will that fucked everybody over. But your team still won because they were the last people to try to answer.
I did a lore quiz for Gamer Escape, and I threw what element beats fire in there as like a gimme question, just like check the wheel, give the answer, free points, and 25% of people got it right. Like almost everyone got it like wrong, different forms of wrong. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna throw that out there just for fun, because that means there's a 75% chance that they're gonna have to call in at this. He'll get it right. It'll be good TV. Like I rolled the dice on that too, and I did not expect it to go like it. No one knew. Chad didn't know. Like everybody is just like, everyone is just like, some people didn't do Eureka, and it shows. Like,
yeah. The thing is, Happy did tons of Eureka. He should have known that, like 100% known that, and he thought it was water. So. I mean,
we're all too used to the 11 wheel where it mattered. But I mean, the elemental wheel of 14's been in the game since 1.0. It used to be right up on the Thaumaturge guild counter and the Dusty Tomes. Like, it's always been there.
Yeah. It was a good one, man. That was a good one. But no, that was fun. That was fun. And I'm glad Sly was there to heckle. Like, heckle us afterwards. Because
it was good. It made for good entertainment. It made for good TV, honestly. Yeah. I liked it.
I got both encyclopedias over here that I have not opened, that just sit on my shelf.
Why do you have them?
Because I wanted to. I wanted to open them. Well, I think this is one thing people don't get about me. I love story, and I love the lore, and I love all this stuff. I haven't invested the time to really sink into it, you know, and like know all this stuff. And sometimes I see it and just forget it immediately because I'm just an old dude now. I'm just old.
Like I've got 100 books that I've bought and never read, but the Encyclopedia Aeorus VFLC.
I have them. I opened it up and I got the Naming Way minion. You know,
I've read it on the way back from the fan fest. I got it.
That's true.
It was just. I had time, so yeah.
Oh man, you just gave me a flashback sitting in the airport, realizing that the I had been trying to get this phrase off of the Final Fantasy Wikia for months. It was like it referred to the fall of all Amigo as the third great Huron migration. I'm like, no, it's not. And every time you deleted it, someone came back and restored it because you didn't have a citation that proved otherwise. And there wasn't one. There was no citation to put it in there. How can there be a counter one? So I'm like sitting in the airport and I flip to the timeline and it says the third great Huron migration and gives a year for it. That's definitely way before that. I'm like, yes. And I just like can't wait to get home and finally nuke this off the stupid wiki once and for all. Yeah, I read it on the way back too.
Yeah. No, Victor brings up a good point. If they made an audio book if someone just like made a video where they just read the entire thing, you know, I would probably.
I don't think they could do that. Like, do they have an audio book of an encyclopedia?
No, you're right.
I think there might be one. I think there might be one in progress. I think Victor might know something about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just a hunch.
Okay. Well, the only thing I would be worried about is the legality of that, because it's selling a book, and like, if you have, I would check into that and make sure that's all good. But yeah. Anyways, I knew going into this event I wasn't going to be able to answer any of the questions just because I just had no ability to do it. So I was just going to hope for my luck, and my luck was at this and it failed me completely. So it's okay. I hope people enjoyed it. It was fun. I want them to do more of those. But what we're here today for is I want to go over stuff that we saw in the new trailer. I also want to go over this 5.0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the story leading up to kind of where we are right now and what we're going to be seeing next week. More of what we're going to be seeing next week based on what we've seen so far and what we've seen in the trailer and some stuff they mentioned at FanFest. And so one thing, and I luckily, I think I know the answer to this because we talked about it last week, or we're assuming this, is in the trailer. You get to see old Charlian, right? You get to see why can't I say it now?
Y'shtola.
Y'shtola. How did I mess up Y'shtola's name? I think I just got nervous. All right, Y'shtola is speaking to someone that has white hair and looks kind of familiar in a way. Who is that?
You think you know? You think you know?
It's the twins' father, right?
Do you know his name?
I don't remember. No, it was told to me, but I don't remember it.
Fortunal Levier. He actually is in the first encyclopedia. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm guessing he leads the council there. Is that what we're assuming?
I think he's of high standing, but I think like there is someone above him. Like I would love to see the social structure or the hierarchy. That's one of the things I'm interested in Old Charlian is the hierarchy in terms of who knows what, who can, who is allowed to know certain things, and like who makes the decisions. I really want to know why historically why Old Charlian is neutral. That's one thing I've always been interested in. Why haven't they wanted to act when the calamity hit? Like they were neutral. They didn't want to do anything, even though I felt like they had the power to. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of curious as to like why they're so isolationist and so neutral.
Moose, could you do me the favor of telling me everything you know about the Charlians and Old Charlian?
Everything I know about the Charlians and Old Charlian is going to be a lot. Let's start with Forchi. So,
Sure.
So yeah, Forch knows their dad. He's the eldest son of Louisoix, which implies that there may be more kids of Louisoix that we might meet when we get there, which would be interesting to me. As Sly said, nailed it. He's a very influential member of the forum, but we don't know if he's like the leader of the forum or the speaker of the forum. I've seen some really interesting conspiracy theories that like if you look at the spiral that was like the seats, that there are 13 seats separated from the rest with a 14th in the center that Forchno is at. And they're like, oh, is this like Amarat echoes? And everyone's getting all paranoid about it. But what we do know is that he's like a powerful, respected member of the forum. He respects everybody's autonomy, but he also believes that like wisdom and pacifism is the way. That's what you do. You don't fight. Fighting is for barbarians. So my first guess, if we're going to follow the lore very closely, my first guess is that he feels that way about being neutral because Charleon was founded in the War of the Magi. That war leads to nothing good. War will eventually lead to calamity, especially if the Ascians get involved. War is their most powerful tool, so you just don't do it. You stay out of it. You solve your problems with wisdom. But there could be more to it. There could be some maybe machinations in the background that we don't know about. People have been accusing Charlayan of having some kind of, deal with Elidibus, that if they stay out of it, they'll be fine once this is all over. But if they did, it's probably void now. So we got a couple options. Until now, I just assumed they were like the post-World War II Japan kind of representative. You don't attack other nations. You don't allow yourself to be attacked by other nations. You don't meddle in other nations. There's usually a representative for like that in the global politics of a Japanese story, but I have no idea where we're going with that part.
Okay. Yeah, and that was another thing I was kind of curious about, because I really think in terms of Endwalker, the fight will be brought to Old Charland. So how will they protect themselves? Will they protect themselves? Like, do they have the power?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think maybe this is where we get some of the sage lore. Maybe.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That they're just completely defensive with robots and funnels.
They've been making Gundams.
Okay. Yeah.
I was just going there in my head, like the post-World War II Japanese society. Like there's one of those in every Gundam, and they always join at the end. They always break their neutrality at the end. I'm having Seed flashbacks.
Wow. Yeah, no. Jeez. So no, that you're talking about that, Sly, how would they defend themselves? We didn't see anything of note from defenses at all. So what do they do if they're all completely non-war everything, the war comes to them and just steps on them? They just die? I mean, is that the goal? Or maybe do they just have a bunch of sages that throw up shields? Because that's what sages do.
Labyrinthos is. Maybe that's like their geo front. They're just going to go down there and hide it out like it was the right idea in every other calamity. Wait for it to be over, come back when everything's pristine.
Do you think Amina is involved at all here?
The primal?
Was it the primal? It was a new threat that was at the very first Anima, or Nima, what?
Anima?
Yeah. Because they didn't mention it at all during this fan fest.
No, they didn't.
So, I mean, so we have literally no explanation for where that is going to fit in anywhere. But what was actually, what was it? Whose mom was that supposed to be again? Who we're assuming was
10 or
no, in 14? I think I remember.
14. I wasn't there for that discussion. Who did we land on for the?
It was
the
either Xenos' mom,
right? Or
it was like, it could be the twins' mom, right?
That'd be dark.
It could.
I think that's a long shot. I really think that's a long shot for it to be the twins' mom.
Yeah.
For their mom to be a primal. Huh.
Well, Granddad's a primal. Might as well round it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Could be grandma. Yeah.
And on one hand, I feel like there's like infinite room for baseless speculation, and we can't trust any of it. But at the same time, there's something alluring to the idea of like it was Seymour's mom. So would they do that again here? And if so, who would they do it to? But at the end of the day, I don't feel like there's anything like we can lean on to say like it might be this, it might be that. Someone's gonna guess right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see how that plays out. But yeah, I just don't know what the Charlian end goal is. I mean, they mentioned something when they were talking before where it's important that they don't get involved because they have a higher purpose or something similar to that within the trailer. Didn't they say that? There's something else that they're doing and it's more important than all that stuff. Or they must preserve because they will always preserve or something like that. Well, I forget what the lingo was.
I could see like having a duty like to preserve knowledge, because if you let all of this be lost in a calamity again and go back to kind of the fourth astral era again, like it's not going to be good for anybody. So I can see themselves as spinning that they have like a duty to knowledge, to preserve knowledge. That would be consistent with what we know. But I mean, like I said before, could there be more to it? Could there be a conspiracy angle to it? Yeah, maybe.
But they don't share this knowledge.
Right.
They don't share this knowledge, do they?
They sell it sometimes.
Do they?
Yeah, like the Aetherite networks, like we had to pay for that shit. Like they came and did it, but we had to pay for it. That's why you have to pay for teleports.
Wait,
now.
they invented, so stupid for us to hear, they invented the Aetheryte network?
So Aetheryte lore was originally that we showed up in the 6th Astral Era and there was no history. We didn't know anything before that. All that was lost. And they were just there. Aetherites were just there. So we were like, yeah, we're taking that. Because Aetherites tend to be placed at areas where you have high etheric concentration. That tends to be where all the life is. You might as well put your city there. But what happened was Charleon figured out how they work and was able to connect like how teleport magics work alongside them, and they were able to construct new ones. So they didn't invent them, but they did kind of figure them out. According to Oda-san, it was actually the Allagons who first made synthetic ones. We haven't gone too deep into it, so I don't know what I could say that would be true and not. But no, they didn't. Okay. They didn't invent them. But they have sold them to us.
Okay.
Yeah. And they have better ones, apparently.
Yeah, they got seashells for their... It's all right. Oh, man. But no, okay, so the other thing I have about the whole Charleon stuff is one landmark of the city is... the statue of the lady holding the pot spilling of water. Does that mean anything, or is that just really cool looking? Because I mean, I would assume it's cool looking, so they put a big statue up there.
Moose, I was going to ask you, did you think that was because who was associated?
Well, you were just saying you were judging Haps for calling me on a 12 question, so I was waiting to see like, do you know?
I was gonna say it was
it's in chat already, so
yeah. You can cheat.
People are saying it's Stalyak?
Yeah.
Really?
So it's not a lady. I was wrong. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure those are like the waters of Thaliak, the knowledge of Thaliak. Hold on, let me pull up. Like, I don't play Astrologian, so I haven't seen that card in a while. Let me pull up his card. Does he got it on the card?
I was gonna say either Limlane or Menfina. Those were my guesses. Thaliak? I don't know. I mean, your chat saying it is the patron deity is Thaliak.
I mean,
okay.
That art, by the way, that kind of statue, I've seen it outside the game exactly the same. So it's like a common trope for a statue.
Yeah. Well, because it's basic. Like Aquarius is the same thing, the water bearer. There are a couple parallels like that in the 12. Not all of them, but a couple of them.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you find a picture, Moose?
I'm almost there.
Yeah.
My Google images are all blurry.
Okay,
specify large.
No, I just saw that, and it was like it's a highlight when you see the city. That's the one thing you think of immediately, because then that kicking badass music comes in right at that exact scene, and you'll always remember it. I'm looking forward to listening to that in the game.
Okay, yes, the scrub who has not played Astrologian in a while. He does have the vase.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. All right. So now we know who that is. That's who the Charleans, I would assume, worship, right? In a way.
Patron deity.
Yeah. And that all lines up and makes sense. I wonder how that's going to work out when we fight the 12 in the Alliance.
I'm nervous.
Oh.
I still don't think we're gonna I think we'll talk about that later, but I don't think we're fighting the 12 per se.
Okay. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Is there, by the way, is there a new Charleon?
Kinda.
Yeah.
It was gonna be. There was so when they founded their colony up in Dravania, what we now call Idyllshire, that was New Charleon, and it was because if you, it's kind of a meta reference because of the way the game was developed. The game was originally supposed to have six city-states on the continent of Aldenard, and we would visit all 6. And one of them was going to be Charleon. And eventually the excuse for that not being there was like, oh, they went home to a mother Charleon, and they're gone now. So we started calling that other island Old Charleon, and now we're just sticking to it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, new Charleon is Littleshire now.
Okay. Again, guys, chat, I know you're on top of it, but like you can see how how far behind I am with all this story and lore. They probably even said that at FanFest, didn't they say that like at FanFest or something with it, Idleshire being Charleon or New Charleon? Or am I assuming that? Because they did bring up something.
My neurons did not encode it into my memory if they did.
Okay.
Yeah, they brought up the whole six city-states thing. Like, I forget where that was, what panel that was even.
Yeah, they did. I remember
was
them
it the
bringing
keynote?
that up. I don't know if that was on the keynote. It actually, yeah, I think it was. And then Yoshida was like, "Yeah, that's way too much. There's no way we're doing 6 starting cities." Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the keynote. Yeah. Okay.
And so the going on that note, what we know of Charleon, a lot of our references, a lot of things that we can see in game right now is Idleshire and that whole area around Idleshire. So we saw the Great Gubu Library, right? Gubu Library. And so we've seen that, which I guess is just like a hint, like a small taste of what Charleon has with it, right? I'm assuming they have libraries that are like 50,000 times more massive than that.
Pretty sure we like saw little clips of one flying through it in the new trailer too.
Mm-hmm. And so it's
right.
Yeah, in the new trailer, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like right before we get to Graha, in the deepest like reaches of the library.
Okay. What drove him away from Idle? Why did they even call it? So this is stupid Frosty going on a tangent here. Why did they call it Idleshire? Was it just something that was named after like they left and someone came over and renamed it?
The goblins named it when they like got together with the treasure hunters. It's supposed to be like this lovely new nation where, freedom reigns.
Okay. All right. Enough of that. We'll get away from it. I would probably go and pick your brain about this stuff for thousands of years. And you're like, Frosty, it's right there. It was there the whole time. You should have read it. If you looked at any of the main story quests, you would know this. I'm like, well, I fucking don't remember, man. Heavensward was so long ago.
It was a while ago. It was a whole pandemic ago, at least.
It was more than a pandemic ago. It's like 2 pandemics ago.
Yeah, but the pandemic's the time warp. It's simultaneously 2 months ago and 2 years ago and 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
Schrodinger timeline.
I mean, all I remember is Jiggly Pepsi Man. That's all I remember. So the other thing with Charleon that we noticed in the trailer was Crystal Cat was stuck in the library. So why was he? Did they just lock the door for effect? Like they put these huge doors, like locks and everything else over there, and then he's behind it. Did they lock him in, or did he like sneak past it somehow and just get through there with his magical abilities? I mean, what's going on there?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Graha, because of his standing, would have a little bit of pull with Old Charleon. He'd be able to get access to like any tomes.
But why didn't they open the door for him?
A little bit of I think that's just honestly right now. I just think that's effect.
Okay.
I think that's effect. I mean, they probably open it and then lock it in, and just he has to knock to get the fuck out. Like I don't know, but yeah, he's like there's like I think certain knowledge that is kind of restricted within Old Charleon that like you had to have a lock for, and it makes sense. And as far as like what he sees and what he says, what did he say? The stars may have more things.
Our star might have more things to tell, yeah. And then he says, "Good luck, friend," or something like that.
Yeah, so I think that alludes to what's going to happen after the whole Zodiac saga wraps up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you think that's after?
Yeah, I think that's setting up for the new arc.
I thought it meant like,
arc.
Our star has stuff that we don't know yet. Hydaelyn's going to kill us all. Is what I took from that. So.
I mean, because
Zodiac,
we're
man.
wrapping up.
Mm-hmm.
We're wrapping up in 7.1, I believe, right, for Zodiac and Hydaelyn. Well, supposedly
7.
6.1. Excuse me. Yes. I don't know why the fuck I said 7. 6.1. Excuse me.
Yeah. So 6.1 is the start of the new story. I think.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they're going to do like story in 6.05. Like they're going to do like one patch of story after that,
Closure.
or if they were going to like one half patch or sub patch of it to wrap things up, or if they're just going to completely seal it like a clean ending there at the end of. Like, so you go into the expansion, power through it all, and then you're done with the arc completely before they do any patches at all.
Or they do Tales from the End on the Lodestone. I think that's what they're going to call it.
And I got to read it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume there's got to be like some kind of blur between like plot hooks that are to come without going too deep into them, because I know Yoshida-san feels a little insecure about ending the story of the Asians and Hydaelyn and Zodiac because he doesn't want people to associate it with the end of 14. So I think there's probably going to be some blurring in there, but that they're probably also going to come on hard and fast with new stories and new possibilities to show that this world is larger. I didn't even think about the implications of the door. I was just like, oh, forbidden section, the one they only let you in if they had the tattoo.
I mean,
okay.
That's what I'm assuming it was. Like, you could only go in there if they gave you permission or something. And do we think that he went in there because he got permission, or he snuck in there and got the information?
I don't know what his standing is right now. Did he annoy anybody too bad? Like, they probably let him in. He's got the tat.
He's
maybe.
not Charlian, though, right? Is he?
I mean, he was with the Baldesians, so it depends on whether they still think good of them right now.
I'm pretty sure him or Crow could get access to that.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I assume it's just plot twisty reasons. He's in there to give us something new in the story to kind of think about, that it's not maybe as clean as we thought. I don't know what those plot twists are. I think it'd be funny if the book he was reading was the Jaren Oracles, because we haven't heard about them since Elidibus took Oriange down there to gaze at it, and we don't really know what it is. That would be funny, but it could be anything.
Okay. Real quick on that tangent about starting a new story. Do you think it'd be just like absolute? This is me, Frosty, stupid conjecture, whatever here. If they did another restart, like you beat 6.0, and you're like, okay, now you're on to MMO number 2, 14, A Realm Reborn twice, and then you go 6.1, you're starting over again with whatever new concept they're going forward with.
Does that involve like starting over with stuff we've already done? Like we're rewriting it? Okay, no. Okay, that would be
starting
cool. Like
MMO number 2, yeah.
If we did a branch from that, like I could see it. Especially if they like launched hard on it, but I think it's the less likely of the two options, but we'll see. Like what scares the crap out of me is the idea that they might use that as an opportunity to push time forward a little bit. Because all of Final Fantasy XI was stuck in the same 1-year time bubble and nobody cared, but people bring it up all the time in this fandom that we're always stuck in the same 1-year bubble. And I'm like a little nervous that they'll nudge it even just like a couple months to a year or however long they nudge it. And then all of a sudden everything's going to be like difficult to calculate again. I really hope they don't. But it's one of the things I see talked about a lot.
I can't see him doing it just from my understanding of how the game would work, because you still have all these old zones you can go to, unless if they're going to like cut you off from all these old zones and everything else.
Right.
It'd just be real goofy when you see other players around. I mean, everything would be instanced differently for everyone until they beat the game.
And after all that trouble they went through to make 5.0's timeline make sense.
Yeah.
Right. My whole problem with a time skip is, okay, the time skip happens and, you know, we're all interested in the lore, and hey, what about this thing that we did during this time that you absolutely did not see? How can you explain that? Like, how could you put that into an encyclopedia? That's one of the issues I have.
Oh, yeah, what if they go into, like, the time relativity stuff like you go into space and time moves differently when you're in space because there's maybe that black hole somewhere near, like not too far.
We already had that with the first though, like the
Yeah,
whole.
it's true.
The bodies in time,
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a skip either. Like it could just be them revealing like, oh, in all of the stuff you've done, it's been 2 years. And like since the start of the game, all the patch you've been through so far, this has culminated in 2 years, and they could just like lock that in and confirm it. And I think that would probably create more problems than it solves, but still people just like really get up in arms about the time bubble sometimes. So I wonder if they're going to touch it someday, and it just gives me a lot of anxiety.
There's air on the moon, dude. Like you can't you can't put logic behind any of this stuff. You can't like attach like you know, as soon as they showed the trailer and like you see the Warrior of Light just standing out there walking around like everything's great and fine on the moon, they could do whatever the fuck they want. It would work fine. Okay, all right. Anyways, the other thing in there. This was brought up when I was having a conversation. Is that that bratty Asayan grumpy dude was given a grumpy face to Xenos in the trailer. Indicating maybe
Fandaniel?
Yeah, Fandaniel. Yeah. And why would he be giving a grumpy face to Xenos? Are they like displaying some conflict between the two of them, I guess?
Maybe Fandaniel really, like, the whole thing with Xenos is focused on us as the Warrior of Light, whereas Fandaniel has plans with the Telophoroi for fucking ending everything. Meanwhile, Xenos just wants one person, and that's it. And like, once that if that were to happen, what would Xenos do? Probably nothing. He would just
cut his throat again. I don't know.
Watching the world burn, and Fandaniel just wants the world to burn. So I feel like it's a case of two different objectives, like that actually line up, but kind of don't. One's on a more massive scale, and one is just centralized, focused on one person.
Mm-hmm. Moose, do you have any comments on that?
Moose?
I do, but they're going to cause trouble. So I'll prep a little bit.
Okay.
So I know there's so many really cool possibilities for where we could go with Fandaniel. But there's something I just can't let go of, is that like 5.0, they had already started to clean up everything. They already knew where they were going, and they had Emmett Selk lay out that they were all tempered. And we don't know a way to really get rid of that as long as you still have your identity. Like Metron and Gaia are really good examples of this, because the only thing they really care about, like their goal is, let's just be together forever. Let's do this. Well, Metron's is anyway. And and he still introduces himself with, "Hi, I'm Metron, servant of Zodiark." And even though it didn't get like put into the game, one of Oracle of Darkness's lines that she shouts, like when she gets her memory back, the glyph comes back, she starts seething darkness. And in the fight, one of the lines that she could have shouted, but they just didn't use it, was in Lord Zodiark's name. So like, I just don't see any reason to assume that the tempering on Fandaniel has broken, as my first guess. I think it's possible. I think there's cool possibilities for it, but it can't be my first guess. My brain won't let go of it. So what that brings me to is this idea that we're partly dealing with Nabriales too, that he kind of knows what Zodiark really wants, that he wants to be his new best friend, that the plan of the originals kind of lacked vision and ambition. Like, why would you want to go back to before His Majesty came into existence? You know, like he's got a better idea of a world Zodiark will like more. So I've got this like idea that both Fandaniel and Xenos think the other one's an idiot, and that they can use them to get ahead with their plans, that they can work together for now, but in the end, one will prevail. I don't know which one will prevail. I can't say which one it would be more cool if it prevailed, but I don't think it's a coincidence that the day Elidibus tells Xenos, "Hey, by the way, the wills of the planet are primals, I'm out," and he decides to gun for Zodiark so we can like restage our battle, that's the day Fandaniel shows up like, "Hey, you looking for a friend?" Like, I think he's got much deeper plans than he's letting on. But every time I say that, it causes trouble.
Well, I mean, the thing that I will notice, that I've noticed, is that his personality is so unpleasant, and he's just like Fandaniel, that he has this kind of character that you're okay seeing him just die and fade away and everything else. So I feel like he's going to lose horribly. I mean, there's no way I can see him coming out on top.
Depending on the ending, I actually really like him right now. It's kind of like, I really like Xenos. I loved him as the bad guy of 4.0. I'm really curious why. I'm really curious why he's here. I don't know if he's the best villain for this arc of the story, this closure, the big bad. Like, it just doesn't thematically line up to me yet. But Fandaniel, I mean, some murderous clown coming out of nowhere in the last chapter, that's classic Final Fantasy. I'm all over it. But depending on where it goes, I might regret those words.
What if, like, at the very end, Xenos starts to develop kind of white hair. Like, his hair starts to turn white. And then his sword, he picks up his sword again, and he has a long sword instead of a scythe.
Oh, I know where you... Stop it.
That becomes the very last boss that we face in this arc.
Like a solo instance. Stop it.
Yoshida definitely wanted his own Sephiroth. Come on, he did. We know it. He got it.
I mean, Yoshida's not that much of a fanboy like we are. Stop it. No.
Jay's got a good point, though. Trust in Ishikawa.
Yeah. I'm trusting her.
But yeah, Frosty, I kind of agree with you. Like, Fandaniel's really, really easy to hate. And it's like in terms of the whole in game with Fandaniel, like with the other Asians, when we finished them, there was this slight moment of, I guess, redemption they had in their ending moments. Like Emmett Selk had that, Elidibus as the Warrior of Light had that. I don't want that for Fandaniel. I want him to actually just die, not give a fuck. Like, I want him to say some crazy shit before he goes away. Like, I really want that for Fandaniel. He's good as a foil, as a villain. He's really good, and I just want them. I hope they don't give him any redemption. And another thing I'm interested in Fandaniel and learning about Fandaniel, I hope we get this lore, is what was his role on the Convocation? Because we see that with others. We learned that through Academia Anadur, and I don't think we learned a little. No, there wasn't anything in Anonymoose, but it's more Academia in terms of the roles and what they kind of specialized in. So that's really one thing I want to learn. What was Fandaniel's turning point? When did he start getting fucked up in the head?
We'll probably see that. You know what? I really don't understand. I think a lot of people are confused. I think I saw a little bit of it in chat. Is why they picked one of the most like annoying characters for him to take over. Like, I don't think anyone wanted to see. Yeah, no one wanted to see Asahi again. I think they were done. I mean, after his little role in Stormblood, I don't know why they picked that body to represent the new villain.
I think it's a shortcut. I think it's just a shortcut to making sure you feel about him like you're supposed to right out of the gate. That there's no kind of question about it. Because I think everybody had the same reaction. Just, oh, this fucking guy.
Yeah, the familiarity. Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't... See, the thing is, you don't... For me personally, my emotions tied to all this, I hate him because he's sniveling and annoying and stupid. Right? I don't hate him because he's like, oh, he's big, powerful, scary, he could fuck everything up. I hate him because he's a little punk I just want to punch in the face. You know? And I feel like that's weird to attach that to like one of the main villains.
Well, I think that's the point. Like, Asahi had this game's most punchable face.
That's true. I would agree with that. As someone who has a punchable face himself, I would agree that like I think that he has a really punchable face. And I don't know. I'm sure it's gonna be great. And I think, wasn't it Ishikawa? Didn't she say that Fandaniel was her favorite character or something of that nature? And her little note? Yeah.
Fandaniel and his something unknown.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Just 3 question marks.
So maybe she'll do this right, because I love the story in Shadowbringers. That was, everybody loved going through that story. I'm really interested to see how she can actually, and this is the one reason why I'm okay with them bringing Xenos, because she could probably do some really good work with Xenos. I feel like all this stuff that we're like, oh, we didn't really like, she could come in and work and repair everything. All of our complaints.
I feel like I've seen her in 1 or 2 patches make Elidibus interesting, and that's the test right there. If you could do that, you could do anything. So I've got faith.
Yeah. All right. We went on. This was from talking about Brady Asayan. Grumpy, it seems. Okay, let's go to the next one. Thing we see in a trailer. Who's this dragon that's with Estinian? Is it maybe a female Nidhogg, and they have maybe a relationship going on, Estinian and this dragon? No? You know? You don't think that's what's happening? You don't think this is like a repeat?
Why not Tiamat?
Because all of a sudden, because all of a sudden Estinian has a thing for Durgans now, and that's his kink.
It really worked for Shiva. He had a lot. In the end, he had a lot of respect for Shiva. I just don't see there's any reason why we couldn't translate to his new relationship with the dragon. Which I heard, by the way, that this is one of the first brood, right? One of the beginning ones.
This is Vritra, the babby of the first brood. Okay. The youngest.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for everybody. I just upset by saying that. I didn't mean to upset you. I thought it was a funny little joke.
I'm just glad I know how to pronounce it now. Like I definitely pronounced it wrong for all of 11.
Is it Vertra?
That's how I said it for years.
Vitra.
It's Vritra.
Vritra.
Vritra. Okay. So, do you have any guesses right now at how, that relationship even starts? I'm not saying romantic relationship, but the relationship between the two of them. Yeah.
Stop saying relationship. Moose.
My guess is when the first brood kind of went to all the different corners of the world, they Square Enix, once they fleshed out this lore, kind of decided who was who and who lived where. And we saw some of them and not others. We got 2 left. And I think they kind of decided where to put them in the story so that we'd meet them along the way. So really, I think what's happening is we're just going to the place that they decided Vritra was. So we're seeing Vritra fight for their homeland, where they've been staying. And that's just a good excuse to show Vritra and get an introduction via Tiamat, who's going to stay back in Eorzea.
Okay,
it's my only guess.
So,
I could be wrong.
With that in mind, do you think they kind of shotgun Azdaja right after we were introduced to Vritra, and where could Azdaja be?
I don't know. I'm doubting it's Mericidia because we already had 2 there. We could shotgun it in and call it Closure because we've been talking about them within kind of this arc of the game. If I were trying to build this world as larger than the story of Hydaelyn and Zodiark, I'd leave Azdaja out. I'd put Azdaja somewhere like the New World or something like that and meet them later. But it depends on whether they want Closure or to drag it out.
Okay.
I could agree with that. Yeah. I feel just putting Azdaja in just because we want another Durgan it feels a little too shoehorny. So I would definitely want them to wait. I can definitely agree with the New World being Azdaja's kind of turf.
Okay. So we're just saying that it's the dragon's coming in because it fits. That it just says, hey, we could put him here, so let's put him here. Okay.
I think it's just we need a representative for that area of the world. It's weird if there's no Durgans over there, you know? And it's weird enough if there's none in Ilzabard proper, up in the north, but I mean, I can see why they'd avoid it right now with all them airships.
Okay. Yeah, and Tiamat doesn't stay with him anymore. We're assuming she.
The whole world's going sideways. I could see her staying home.
Okay.
Or flying down to Maricidia to clean up that mess.
Okay. All right. So, anything else from the trailer that you guys saw that you're like piqued your interest and you wanted to dive into?
Like watching it again in my head.
Oh, okay. You're gonna just sit, Moose. You're just gonna sit there for 4 minutes.
Probably.
Recalling.
I mean,
everything
there's a lot of stuff in the trailer that I'm like, I wonder, but nothing that I could comment on. Like, there's an interesting mask on Xenos' throne, but that's literally all I have to say about it. There's an interesting mask on Xenos' throne.
No, okay. He just he killed one of the Asians?
It's like carved into the chair.
Okay.
But I got nothing.
Yeah. And it was mentioned in chat, the weird creature on the moon with lots of mouths. That's what we're all assuming is the first beast on the moon.
The first beef.
The first
beef. Yeah, boy. Yeah, it's the first beast.
Okay. They just wanted to
but my thing
bring
is,
him in.
Yeah, my thing is, why throw in the first beast? I feel like Square and the devs have gotten past, putting things into trailers just to put things into trailers like they did for Heaven's Ward. You see all those versions of what's his name, and he really doesn't show up until like maybe the latter part of 3.0. So yeah, they've gotten past putting in things, just to kind of have them placed in it. So will the end play out exactly like it did for the Asians? Because if the first beast showed up, it's like I feel like there's going to be a repeat of history as we saw it, depicted in Amarat the dungeon. Yeah, my thing is why put the first beast in there?
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I'm like looking at the outline and I don't see any other place I could kind of shove this in. But this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. And you bring up like a really good point in terms of SE probably knows not to just wing it with the trailers anymore. I think you have a little more faith than I do that that they're meaningful. Like, I think that like they had a few thematic pieces of artwork on hand, and you have to order these videos like a year in advance, and they were like, yeah, it looks kind of like this is the stuff we're working with right now, like 5.0 and the attack of the 50-foot Karibu. We never actually fought a 50-foot Karibu. Like, that wasn't our, so like I think there's still a little room for interpretation there, and it just being a trailer. But one thing I've been thinking a lot about is the scene with Vana, where the reason that one of them disagrees with the convocation is this is only a temporary measure. And they are not specific at all about what that means. So we've got two options. One, Zodiark's a band-aid, this is going to happen again. As long as there are creation magics, the final days are going to come in this way. That's one interpretation of it. If it's not that Zodiark's just a band-aid, it's that Zodiark's uncontrollable, that the ability to control Zodiark is temporary. And either way, Vana's faction comes to the conclusion like this has to end. We need to create Hydaelyn and pull Zodiark out of this position. And they, like, the last thing Vana says to them is, are you so sure that this is the correct path that you're willing to face the convocation? You're willing to say the convocation is wrong, that you are so sure of this path. And that's the path forward they do. But like the reason that they consider it a temporary measure is extremely interesting to me. And the idea that we're seeing kind of the first beast on the moon and the actual recurrence of the final days in a way, I think is going to be our answer to that. And I'm curious what it's going to be and excited to find out.
Yeah.
Okay. There was someone did try to call you out about us fighting a Karibu in one of the dungeons.
We did. We fought like a regular sized Karibu in one of the dungeons. They were
in Homister, yeah.
Yeah, they were a common sin eater. Maybe not like the most common, but they were definitely. But it wasn't like our angel massive thing coming down out of the sky to like it made it look like a final boss kind of thing. And I agree. I'm seeing in chat like innocence shades of innocence in that, and I agree on that too. But like I just think there's a little wiggle room for not taking the trailers too rigidly, and I'm gonna be a coward and wuss out and say that's what's going on here. Okay. I'm not gonna take it too rigidly.
Okay.
So let's go in a little bit into some other stuff that we're talking about. We mentioned Sage briefly earlier. So if we talk about the new jobs and everything they're introducing, Sly, your money's on they're going to put it on Old Charlian, and that's how we're going to understand their defenses and everything else to keep themselves safe, is because Sages are a thing there.
Yeah. They're literally making Gundams down there. We don't know about it.
Okay. Moose, do you think that's what's going on?
I'm even if it's not true, it's true now. Like, I love it. That's great. Charlian Gundams, I'm all over it. I agree that it's probably Charlian because there were a lot of references to it in the kind of the models and the place that they were using. The video was shot in Gubal. And just the use of the word sage, like in Japanese, that's kenja, and that is the same word that they use for the people who have the tattoos. So it's just a very common word in their culture.
All right. Just out of rolling back to Heavensward, and trying to dig up my memories of that. That whole area where the new Charlian area was supposed to be had Alexander in the lake, right?
Yeah.
Where did Alexander come from again? If you guys could remind me.
There was an engineer who wrote a codex, like an Aura engineer that designed it years before, and they were going to try to build it as like kind of that Charlian idea of Utopia, that there was going to be a way to take their show on the road, and you just couldn't get it working. Like the plans were good, but it was kind of a Da Vinci style thing where there's some pieces missing in terms of making it work fully properly. And when they just kind of left it where it was, the goblins came along and were like, yeah, we know how to make it work. You just close that gap by shoving a primal into it.
So was it Charlians were involved with Alexander in some way?
If I remember right. I want to grab a book just to make sure, because I'm foggy on that point.
Okay. I'm trying to I'm just gonna be like Alexander lore.
The only reason I'm bringing that up is because of what Sly was saying with them making Gundams and everything.
If I can name off the top of my head is the stuff about the time travel, because that's all anybody asked me about. So hold on, you guys talk about that.
Sure. No, like I was I was wondering about it because I was like, if they had any involvement in Alexander, literally at all, then it would make sense. And so if it was not anything to do with Charlians, and they didn't touch it, they didn't do anything with it, then maybe it doesn't line up as cleanly as I thought it did. But we'll let Moose kind of do his research there. So from my understanding, if it is going to be part of the whole Charlian stuff, that will mean that they are into robotics and everything. And we're assuming the underground area is the Charlian area, right? That area is their place. So was it called Labyrinthos or something?
Labyrinthos or something.
Yeah, and that's the one that has like the artificial sun underground, right?
Yeah, it has the dome and everything.
Yeah, and then the architecture all kind of lines up a little bit with the Charlian stuff, and so we could assume their technology is really good, and they can create floating little funnels to follow you around and shoot stuff for you. So it does, because when I was thinking of Charlians, I was thinking, oh, well, they are, old people with beards, and they're just hanging out and robes and studying books. I wasn't thinking of like technomancers or something, right? So I don't know.
Charlians have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of knowledge in different vocations, I'd say. So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Okay. So we may be seeing some pretty futuristic stuff going into Old Charlian and not just a whole bunch of books and libraries. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Charlian did execute it originally. It was a defense facility.
The Alexander?
Yeah.
There you go. So there is some sort of... Go ahead.
The thing that the Ascians gave him was the horn that was used in the 1.0 lore, which I'm still really curious about. I'm still really curious about the rest of the keys, but that's what Shravanche gave the Aura there. Okay. But yeah, it's described as a Charlayan defense facility. I can try to dig up some more on it, but again,
that's all I needed. So that
okay.
Yeah, that backs up Sly's point that these guys are robot makers, and they probably have lots of crazy robot stuff that we're going to be seeing. I guess we haven't seen enough robots recently, right? It's been a while. So I think I might be okay with it. So I guess that's good. Let's see, what else do we have? Sage, is there any other possibility of how we get introduced to Sage besides Charlie? And I can't even think of anything. That's it, right?
Yeah, that's where I'm putting my bet.
Moose, any thoughts?
Like alternatives to Charlayan for Sage?
Yeah, well, like
how
else do we get Sage if we don't get it through the Charlayan side?
I want to talk about Garlemald.
Garlemald?
I really don't want to talk about it being Garlemald. No, I mean, those are the three people who play with tech of that caliber that we could like remote control flying drones. You've got either Sid's pulling up new Alagon stuff, or Charlayan's playing around with new stuff, or Garlemald's playing around with new stuff, or there's a new player on the field technologically. But like, if it's not the Ironworks, then it's probably Charlayan.
Oh yeah, didn't they say it starts in Limsa? So somehow they would have to make it to Limsa. Which I guess could be anywhere because they just take a boat, right?
Yeah.
So I guess Garlemald's dead. I mean, it's from everything we've seen, it's just crushed.
I can't believe they got all amigoed so we could go to Charlayan.
Yeah. That's so crazy. Like, you know, playing throughout Final Fantasy, you always think of Garlemald as like the big bad thing that you eventually go to and you have to overcome it. But they just killed themselves. They just...
And it's realistic.
Yeah.
I think it's realistic. It subverts expectations. I think that's part of the big part of it, is that it subverts expectations. We all expected that to be the ending. And if everybody's kind of sick of Castrum looks and sick of the traditional and they want to wrap it up satisfyingly, I can see subverting expectations. I just think it's funny that like there are all these people who've been really excited to go there and see it, who are going to show up to find the entire thing in ruins, and Yoshida like, sorry, a couple months too late, bye.
Could have seen it in its full glory if you would have been here just a few months earlier, but you're off effing around in a whole nother universe or whatever. Oh my god. All right. So Reaper lore, I guess, is the new thing that we saw in this, and while we can kind of pin down Sage fairly confidently on the Charlian side, can we pin down Reaper on anything?
Yoshida finally caving.
It's just him caving.
Yep.
Okay. That's the lore.
Yep.
You know, that's it. That's just it. Like they literally they put that. You know what? It's a rising quest. Like they're gonna do the rising again. We're gonna go back to the offices, and that's a fucking lore right there.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, and you start the new job quest. It's like his character, Yoshida's character, that starts the job quest for you.
I think it'll be whatever makes sense out of Yoshida looking at 7+ years of feedback about how we want a scythe job, and Dark Knight should be a DPS, and Dark Knight should have, you know, and we want to play with Void Send, and just going like, okay, you know what, you can have all those things, here you go, and whatever Oda-san has to do to make that work is what we're going to do. Whether we have to like go to the Thaumaturge Guild or drag up Mahashi stuff or find a way to recreate the essence of a void scent like we would an Eggy or something like that. Whatever has to be done to make that fan wish come true, we're going to do it.
Okay. I saw Maki in the chat.
Everybody in chat. Yeah. Everybody's saying Maki.
Do you have anything against that, Moose? Do you think that's just like too easy of an answer?
I don't know if it's too easy, but until now, Yoshida has been very hesitant to let us touch anything that's not heroic, that taints us in any way. The man wouldn't let us be Thief. I say it all the time. Like, so the idea that he's just like, yeah, summon a void scent, you can control it, but that's what everybody who summons a void scent thinks. So it's like, maybe we really can, but part of me is trying to think of other excuses that they could kind of backdoor it in on us, because they never let us touch this kind of stuff. The 5.0 trailer made it seem like we were going to embrace darkness for good, and we didn't even get there. We just used our powers of light in a vacuum sense. So I think there's something going on, but I don't know what it is yet.
Okay.
I think it really could be we are capable of keeping it in line. Maybe we took like a nullstone with us.
I guess so. Sly, your thoughts? You had something you were saying a second ago.
Yeah, I was kind of agreeing with you. I think it's like being Maki seems too easy of a reach. Like when I went in, everything. I feel like every other job that we've gotten since, like, I guess 2.0 has kind of been set up in a way lore wise. But then the thing is with Reaper is, what do we get? Not even we get a trailer with it, but before that we get the weapon hidden behind a pillar. Not a lot to draw from that. Not a lot to say like, hey, there was this group of people who potentially use this, or there were voicing who used this. So yeah, I can see Maki, but I feel like Maki's just too easy.
I will say it's kind of weird.
Go ahead.
No, it's kind of weird that Xenos is the highlight for this job, right? And so
the poster boy,
yeah. So it's,
does he get a void scent?
Yeah, does he get a void scent? Yeah, maybe his void scent Zodiark. Maybe it's just his Zodiark hanging behind him. I don't know.
Maybe Anima is his void scent. No, that's too fucking stupid. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. That's a frosty take.
There's nothing that's too stupid. I would be remiss to point out that Chad is bringing up one of the other theories that I've seen floating around, is that you somehow have a connection with a Warrior of Light, or maybe your shard even of the 13th, and that's your void scent, buddy. So there is no idea that's too out there, Sly.
Yeah.
Go for
it. I think so Xenos, I assumed he's going to come into this role and everything else because he's trying to get closer to Zodiark. So it almost makes me think that we start seeing Zodiark as something that's not horrible and bad, and Reapers are just close to Zodiark. And we have to like play that job quest and say, okay, maybe Zodiark's just the other side of the yang to the yin, right? And so it's just whatever. I might have that backwards, but it's part of balance, and it's okay to support. I'm on Team Zodiark. I of course support Zodiark in every single way, and I do hope that this expansion proves that Zodiark is the good guy and Heidelin's the bad person we got to beat. But we'll see. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm probably just going to go off on a tangent if I start, but
sure.
Please.
Xenos' plan to gun for Zodiark, even if he's the more powerful one, I think is weird to begin with, just because if he really wanted to have a battle where we each eat one of the gods and fight again, he should go for Heidelin just to force our hand. Like, if she's gone and Zodiark's still there, screw it. 2 birds, 1 stone. So, like, his plan already doesn't make sense to me in a way. And also, I'm very curious, like you said, to see how they characterize Zodiark, because light and darkness are not inherently good and evil in this game. They've said it time and time again. Not even like the will of light and darkness is necessarily good or evil. But at the same time, we've had nothing but hints over the years that he is greedy and resentful and hates the star. And like they've characterized him, not darkness, not the will of darkness, just Zodiark, him himself, in a way that he's antagonistic. And I'm curious to see if they stick to their guns or they reveal it's not so simple, especially since we're only going to get that characterization in this last chapter. So I'm very curious to see how it pans out. Do they stick to their guns or not?
How are they going to fit all of this?
It's been done before.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Like the thing is, it's been done before in the form of Astral and Umbral. Like everything we knew about it at that point was turned upside down once they kind of told us about it on the first. So yeah, I could see that. I can definitely see that happening.
And they did this. Yoshida did this in Bomberman. So like they did the little fusion dance. We got rid of both. Like it makes me nervous.
Well, we'll see, man. I feel like I literally have no clue what's coming up in this next expansion. I just can't. I can't predict it. All right, so we're still pretty big. Yeah, it's good. And hopefully we get a little bit of light coming in the next light on the issue in a few days. But I do feel, what was I was going to say something else and I completely forgot about it. My dog barking in the background threw me off. We'll just, no, Reaper story. So we still feel like that's kind of just a big mystery. It's very difficult to pinpoint at the moment.
There's a lot of possibilities and I don't really feel like any of.
There's not a magical land somewhere where Reapers reign and they're a big deal and they're gonna come to us and ask for aid in their area.
Yeah, from Zarakish, for all I know. There's some answers that make sense and some that don't. And
okay, all right. Well, I guess we'll find out. The next thing is I want to talk a little bit about destinations that we are going to be going to. I guess that lines up pretty well. We've saw a lot on Favnir, right? And it's very colorful, amazing looking place. And I did you expect that, by the way, Moose? I want to ask this just straightforward. As someone who studies all the story, all the places that we're going, you're like, I knew we were going to go there.
Eventually, not this time. Like, I thought we were going to go to Thavnir in 3.0. I thought we were going to go to Thavnir in 4.0. I thought we were going to go to Thavnir in 5.0. So I predicted we'd go there in 6.0 just because it's tradition. I wanted my Blitz ball.
Yeah. Okay.
So, no, I can't say I was shocked because I knew we'd go there eventually. I'm actually a little impressed because when they started talking about it, it seemed a little like Ottergon. It seemed a little like the 11 kind of Middle Eastern kind of place. So for them to go to South Asia with it and make it really colorful and tap all that stuff, I was really impressed that they tried something new with it. Mm-hmm. And Charleon was on our hit list from day one. It was where the Circle of Knowing was from. We were going to go there someday. It was a matter of time. I just didn't know if it would be part of this closure or if it would be part of opening the world. So that's where I'm at. I'm sure Sly will have like much more interesting answers from someone who like plays the game like live without all of that weird lore attachment to it. Until
about all that crazy stuff and the crazy moose stuff that you have in your head.
As a player of video games, were you surprised?
Yes. Yes and no. I've been wanting to go to Razatan for quite a while. And back in the day, I'd say like, oh, maybe we'd go there in dungeon form. But as we got closer to this expansion, I'm like, you know what? That in there seems nice. We've been begging for this for quite some time. We get a lot of Thavnarian lore, and we have all these things, all these things of trade from Thavnir, and we never seen the place. So now we finally do, and I was really excited to see it. When they showed off Thavnir the first time, the other stream a few weeks ago, No, I think I was one of the few. Well, part of one of the few. You saw? Did you see Asura in that picture? Moose.
Moose is going to look it up right now.
Yeah, we'll do a comparison live.
Yeah. And what picture are you talking about, Sly?
There was a picture of it like all being on fire. Like I think it's one of the dungeons, but like I feel like Asura is like at the end of that dungeon. Like you can see a tall kind of statue kind of thing.
We got to find a place for Asura somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's been guessing that one is going to be part of something for a long time, and it would be a cool place for it.
Okay. So, layman,
there's potential.
Go ahead.
There's potential for Asura to be a primal within Thavnir.
Okay. For the layman who don't know Asura, I feel like I'm lost here. I don't know why. Again, sorry to everyone who is ashamed of me.
FF4.
FF4. See, FF4, I still haven't, like, it's on my list of games that I'm going to be playing soon, but I still haven't gone through it. But what is Asura? Explain Asura to me real quick. Besides FF4.
I'm trying to remember the lore, the FF4 lore for Asura. Moose.
What does it even look like?
I can't. It's like a god. It's like a god with 3 heads, like one on the right, one on the left, and then the front facing head, and 4 hands each holding swords.
Okay. That would line up with a lot of stuff that we've seen.
For a lot of people speculating that that's where Save the Queen was going. So a lot of people brushed up on their Asura lore during that era, and it's fresh on their minds right now.
I guess we have Save the Queen on Tuesday too, right? So we're going to see a lot of that. All right. Thavnir, I'm trying to think. So I understand the whole Sharlayan side of everything, but why are we going to Thavnir? Can you think of a reason why we're going to Thavnir?
Every time I think of Thavnir, I think of like something. I think of more economical things like trade and all the goods that we get from Thavnir. So remember when, what was it? When Stormblood, once we hit Kugane, like shit got really, really political and economical. I think Thavnir is going to be semi that. Like it's going to be like a little bit like that, where there's something going on between Eortia and Thavnir. There's a business reason why, and I feel like, you know, Tataru could have a hand in that because her thing is money. But yeah, like it starts out economical and then turns more into the end.
Okay.
Because, you know, the end is hitting everywhere.
So you think maybe Alphanil needs a new sword or something, and that's where it's at, and he needs to go over there and buy it? So
possibly.
Okay. What was the other places? Okay, so I remember, of course, the moon, right? And this expansion feels like we're just spread. We're just like all over the place. So we're going to the moon. We can think of a reason why to go to the moon because that's likely where Zodiark is in some way, is how I'm picturing it. I think a lot of people are assuming that, right? Or am I dumb for thinking that?
I think it's what we've been told in a way. The allegations that the moon wasn't even there until Hydaelyn drop kicked him kind of into the sky. So if we take that at face value, yeah, that makes sense. With what we've seen on the moon, there's more than nothing there. Since 3.0, actually, there have been textures on the moon for this massive sigil of Zodiark and this statue of Zodiark. So we knew that there was something more than nothing up there. Now we're seeing that there's an actual like bastion that's built the same as Amarat, and we don't know why that's there. It could have been kind of the last bastion of Zodiark's followers went there and kind of recorded their side of the story after he was kicked out. So we might have to go there to learn something. We might have to go there to fight. I remember originally thinking we'd get to the moon to find out, like, you know how, like, if you dig into the planet, you go into the ethereal world, you find Heidelin, her crystals there. I thought there would be a parallel in space. You dig into the moon, you find, like, a rift torn out of space. You find Zodiark imprisoned in it. You got to fight him in the crystal Bahamut style. That's where the chrysalis is, like, this whole big thing. But that's kind of predictable, right? So we could be going there just to learn something. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, there are caves. There's moon caves.
Yeah, something's going on.
So maybe that does hold true that we're digging in there because there's caves leading to the center. That would be easy. And apparently only little bunnies can live on the moon or something. I don't know.
I'm so rabbits.
Yeah.
For it.
Oh man. Well, you know, I'm. Do you think there's another race on the moon besides the little rabbits? Do you think, like, there's some other moon race we don't know about yet? No?
Define race.
Okay. Another turtle people instead of rabbits.
Okay. No, I think it's probably going to be the rabbits. I would not be surprised if the rabbits lived alongside, like, AI, like holograms of the last ancients. Mm-hmm. But I mean, even that seems kind of a stretch. Like, I think it's probably just them.
I mean, we saw like a crashed elegant ship or something on the moon too, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm just trying to piece all that together and how any of this makes sense in any way. Why are there rabbits on the moon? Are they like the Alligans' pets that just outlived them? I mean,
are we still under the impression that the rabbits are Lunarians?
I have no impression. They're cute. That's all that matters.
Okay.
Like I could see them have. Okay, so here's the thing. I could see them as being like native to it, somehow evolving from it when Zodiark was drop kicked into space. I could see them being a creation of the last ancients who were there, just so they had familiars to hang out with. I could see them being something Allagan from when that ship crashed into it. I could see that ship being the thing we crash into it to get there. I have no idea, man.
So when you said that, it's like, oh, well, we just drop kick Zodiark, and everybody's like, happy bunnies! And then they imagine happy bunnies, and that's how they... Okay, do you remember
when it was like a dark time in 2011 when like the tsunamis and the earthquakes hit Japan? They were like, you know what, we're not going to do Leviathan or Titan right now. We're going to do Happy Moogle time. Maybe it was similar. They just had like this horrible thing go down, and they were like, you know what, happy bunnies. Like, this is going to... It's not going to be totally horrible.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess that makes sense. All right. The one other place they showed off was the floating islands that are like green and waterfalls and everything else. Do you guys have a theory on what that is? No? Still
Zeal.
blank? What?
Zeal.
Zeal? What's zeal? Stop giving me this look every time I ask these things.
No, it's not a look. It's like...
Okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. From Chrono Trigger. It's something from Chrono Trigger?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, and that's the place where they had all the really ancient people who had magical abilities, right?
Yeah, it's been a minute since I played Chrono Trigger.
Okay.
But at least it opens the door for Lavos.
I hate the fact that I'm co-signing with people that it's zeal. It's like when people show me, I'm like, yeah, you're kind of right. But at the same time, I had to accept Happy's bullshit that he really wants fucking Lavos in here somehow, some way. So
does he want it to be the voice, like the cacophony that the Final Days people heard?
No, I don't know. I really don't know. But he keeps saying, like, I hope we fucking get Lavos in. I'm like, No.
This is where Chrono Trigger finally comes back, is in Final Fantasy 14.
A bit of an echo chamber going on, because like I am really into this idea of bringing back the original 1.0 idea of there being something beneath Silvertear Lake, and that being where all roads lead in the end. And as we started talking about that, they started attaching like the star shower to Amarat and the Ancients. And when we went back and talked about the final days, they were like, oh, this sound came up from deep within the earth, this like keening, this screeching, and then our creation magics went insane. And that's the moment everybody folded all of those together and just went, Lavos is beneath Silvertear Lake. And that's where we've been stuck ever since. So when we see something that looks kind of like Zeal, everyone's like, yeah, Chrono Trigger, Lavos.
Okay.
I noticed that one of the architectural features in Proto Zeal, Hypo Zeal, is those weird little like squiggles that you see coming up through the silhouette of Amarat too, and that made me like very paranoid. I don't know if that's enough of a connection that I buy into it. It's a squiggle, but it did make me paranoid.
Okay. I mean, I would love it. I mean, who doesn't love Chrono Trigger? It's like one of the best games ever made.
I love it, but
it's just hard for me to imagine them just doing that crossover into Final Fantasy 14 and making that connection.
Right, but it's too obvious. It's too, for me, it's just like the similarities are just too haunting to not be a coincidence.
Okay.
I just still hate the fact that Lavos could be a possibility. And whoever said Soval as being Lavos in 14, that is fucking lazy. That is like that's like some Alucard bullshit. Like, I'm sorry, like, please, Yoshi P, don't do that. If you're gonna shoehorn Lavos in, don't call him Soval. Just fucking call him Lavos. I don't even give a fuck at this point.
We can call it anything. I think it's just the theme of there being kind of like this eldritch thing beneath the ground that cries out, and eventually it's the final boss. Like, it doesn't have to be called Lavos. It's just shorthand for kind of a concept everybody knows.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about with destinations that we're going to? I think those were the only real places that we saw, right?
Yeah.
It's only been a couple of weeks. It feels like it's been like a year. Actually, it was last weekend. Oh my god.
You okay? You okay, Frosty?
A lot's been happening, right, man. Buddy? There's been so much going on. What?
I told you time's messed up.
Time's messed up, man. Oy. All right. This is something everybody's really excited for. The promo picture. We see a character at the very top of the promo picture. And what's our theories on who this character is?
Moonphilia. Moonphilia.
Love it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I can't see it being anyone other than Vanal right now. Like, I'm just trapped there. Like,
for the other Frosties out here, I mean, I have already had a brief explanation on it, but explain Vanat to me.
So Vanat is the leader that what I would call the counter convocation. When it became clear that the convocation was being very stubborn about the use of Zodiark, that they were not hearing debates to the dangers of Zodiark, or maybe that enough had been sacrificed, Vanat was really the one who rallied people to the alternative, that they had to chain Zodiark somehow, that this was not normal. The convocation was not being normal. Like, something was very wrong. So she became kind of the counter Elidibus. She was going to be the heart of Hydaelyn when it was summoned.
Okay. Makes sense. And then we're just going to team up with her and be like, yeah, kill Zodiark, and that's just
no idea.
No idea.
I hope.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've always been on Team Hydaelyn in the sense that she's not a real, like, she doesn't have to be a real god. She doesn't have to be perfectly beneficent. She doesn't have to have never made a mistake. But I've been on Team Hydaelyn in the sense that, like, I really, at the end of this game, I just hope Crystal Mom loves you and tried her best. And I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that in Vana. It's okay if she made mistakes. It's okay if she had to make some hard choices, but I would like to see, you know, Crystal Mom loves you and tried her best. So I'm gunning for it. I'm gunning for an ally here, but I'm open to every possibility.
Okay. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, I guess we got a couple other things in here worth mentioning that wasn't really... It was just mentioned kind of, I guess, in the keynote. We were talking about this earlier. We're going to be facing the 12. Or maybe we're not facing the 12. That's just the Alliance. We know it's the 12. What's your predictions on what that Alliance is going to look like? If you can make any at all.
So, like, I spoke about this with Ethis, and I was originally under the impression that, we might get the fight to 12. I mean, to be honest, I would definitely be interested in seeing a fight against Rhalgr as part of the Alliance raid. But to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, Moose, earlier about Silvertear Lake, these are, I think this is going to be like a small, like these raids are going to be like a small anthology of mysteries that we have yet to, you know, kind of solve. Silvertear Lake being one of them. So it's not really dealing with the 12 directly. It's more, you know, some of the myths, some of the mythos and mysteries that we have yet to solve in Eortia. And I really agree with that. I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. Moose?
No. Like when they said that we were going to delve into the last mysteries of kind of 1.0 and stuff like that, I got really excited about thinking about like very specific things. Like, is it going to be Sabik? Is it going to be the presence of Silvertear Lake? Is it going to be like, what is this last mystery that's so when he was like the 12, I was like, that's really obvious and yet wasn't even on my list at all. I know that Iwao-san, Kenichi Iwao, he was the original lore setting guy for 1.0. He thought the 12 were a very big part of the game. He planned on explaining them pretty early in the game. We would have known by their 2.0 probably what role they have in this world. So the idea that they've been gone this entire time is fascinating, but also a little scary because it could be anything, and it could feel very shoehorned in if it's something that like we can tell they didn't have way back then. The original lore for the 12 is that they left us at the first Umbral era. That's really when the Age of the Gods ended and the Age of Man began. I think if they could stay true to that somehow, that'd be really cool. I thought it would be really cool to tie it to the 12 figures that are around Vana who sacrificed themselves to bring forth Hydaelyn. Whether she really does resurrect them every Umbral era, or whether they're emanations of her somehow, or maybe we're like conflating the stories of who they were when they went away to the heroes that come up every time. Like there's so much room there for a rich story, and especially one that finally gives us some answers about Ramuh, because they told us Ramuh was different. He had a crystal of light. I've got so many theories about like who he once was, but there's just so much this raid could be about, and I don't know. Like we see that every raid has 4 bosses. There's usually 3 raids, so that's 12, right? Is that we're just gonna like plow through them all one at a time? It could be anything. There's so many cool ways this could go. And if we do fight them, the only thing I ask is that Azima is last, and that it is awkward. That it is very awkward. I want us just to fight the mythological manifestation of the historically inaccurate records of our own achievements. Like just a Zem through a weird lens. It looks like the Charlian astrology card, just super awkward. Like just give me that.
Okay.
And I'm going to answer a question from chat real quick.
Sure. Go. Yeah, do it.
Yeah. Ramuh is this weird pseudo Rhalgr. The way the sylphs remember history, there was a wise old man of the wood who taught them about like a god of man, and they took on the god of man, and all of it got kind of conflated together as far as we can see. Like the only idea that really makes sense is that this god of man was Rhalgr, that the old man of the wood was perhaps one of the warriors of light who retired, and he left them his crystal of light, and that's why all of this is mashed together into this one wise old man of the wood named Ramu who has a crystal of light. But they planned on explaining that a long time ago and never did, and they could have changed that story a lot by now.
Okay. What was it? I was thinking if they're going to do the 12, and yeah, there are 12 bosses, it just feels really goofy to do one by one. It just doesn't, because it doesn't lead up to, like, the only way that could maybe lead up to be like, oh, we're at the very end is like what you said. But I feel like it still doesn't feel like a good build up. It feels like we're just knocking one.
Well, we could do, if we had to fight them, we could also do 2 at a time for the elements. Mm-hmm. And have 6 other fights of other stuff where we learn anything else. But like, I don't know, like they could do anything with this because it's such a broad subject that's so old and has not been fleshed out.
Yeah.
Oh, well. And the thing is, it's also going to have to, both this and the raid is going to extend past the end of the story. Yeah. Right? Oh, yeah. That's also an interesting part, is that like we're going to be seeing this in 6.1, 6.3, and 6.5. We're going to be learning about the 12. And in 6.0, 6.2, and 6.4, we're going to be doing La Habrea stuff.
Really kind of thought about the pacing of it being like, I'd thought about that we're not going to engage the La Habrea stuff until level 80 or 90, sorry. So I knew that the story would be over before we engaged it, but I didn't really think about the fact that it's going to be playing out through the new story.
Yeah. So I don't, usually it's not like corresponding, back, you can do them separately and it won't be horrible. But it is interesting for the fact that I think this is all just us learning information. It's not going to be, I don't know. I can't imagine it being too crucial towards what the actual story between Zodiark and Hydaelyn is, because the La Habrea stuff, and we should talk about that a little bit, is very heavily Zodiark based. And so if they wrap up that whole arc before that's even fleshed out all the way, that does feel a little bit weird. I don't know. What do you guys think about Pandemonium?
We're going to hell.
Do you think we're going to hell? Okay.
Yes. I'm actually excited for this. I'm actually excited. I kind of hope Satan is an actual thing within this. And yeah, there's gonna be story focused on La Habrea, but we're fucking going to hell. And I love that.
You think we're actually going to what is Final Fantasy XIV's hell called? Is it just hell?
The 7 hells.
Is it 7 hells?
Yeah,
okay.
The hells.
So we're going to experience, you think we're going to experience the 7 hells?
Oh man, now that you mention it, how cool would that be? Would they alternate raids between the 7 heavens and the 7 hells, the 12 and the hell? Oh, that would be cool. If it's not that, I'm going to be mad now. What are you doing?
That would be pretty interesting, wouldn't it? Well, we'll see. We'll see. They're being very hush-hush about it. I don't think we're going to learn like anything about either one of these before the expansion's out. They're not going to give us little details. We're probably not even going to get a picture like we got Gaia last time. I don't think we're going to even get that picture. They're just going to keep it very quiet.
With half a flaming sigil, and that's probably all we're going to get.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which I'm fine with. I think they're going to have some pretty interesting fight. And these are so like deep in Final Fantasy XIV story and lore that it's not going to feel like a separate little side goblin story, right? Or a side fight Omega through the universe and fight random bosses story. It's going to feel like these fights matter and they're important in some way. At least I think so. But we'll see. I just want to get your thoughts on it. 7 Hells is what we're going to. I think a lot of people are assuming that it was like we're going to go see his lab and what he's creating, all these monsters. We'll see his creations and everything else. But what would we see? Actually, now that I think about it, what would we see in the 7 Hells if we were going to see stuff there?
We've got legends. Like we've had no reason to think they were real before. So
okay. Like, is there certain monsters of the Seven Hills that we should be aware of? Wait, say that again. You cut out a little bit.
Baron. But I mean, that was just like his original story lore. It probably wasn't even true. But like, yeah, no, I could go on another 5-minute rant about here are the possibilities, but I don't know. Okay. It could be, a Final Fantasy II thing. It could be La Habrea's creations. It could be anything. But I'm sitting here thinking about Sly's answer. I'm like, nah, fuck it. I like that. We'll just go with that. Like,
okay.
I'm like, yeah, I would love for it to be 2. I would love for it to be 2 associated.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's.
I mean, they already got 4 and 10. Do they really need to throw 2 in there as well? I mean, it doesn't matter. They can do whatever they want. I don't care.
They can do like. I mean, we've seen what they did with Omega. They can throw in anything they want.
Yeah.
Now, whether it be good, that's the question. But yeah, I kind of feel like if they do base it on 2, it kind of will feel a little like Omega, and I hope they do it like in a better way than just making it like outwardly fan servicey.
Right.
So, I mean, I'd love to I love the idea of Pandemonium from 2. Just make it your own. I think figure out a way to make it your own. But okay. Seven Hells would be nice.
You could retell them. You could retell the Mateus story in a couple of different ways, especially if you consider like kind of the connections that La Habrea already had through the 12 lore and all that other kind of stuff. There's some really interesting possibilities on the table, but man, I don't know, because it's going to be again another 12 fights that we can try to think about what's in there. And I just like, as soon as you mention the idea of like there being the 12 in the heavens on one side and the hells on the other, like, oh, that would be so fun. I'm not going to get it now.
No, you're going to be disappointed.
I'll be mad about it all day. You set me up for disappointment. I'm going to hate whatever I get now. Anybody from Square watching, there's still time. Listen to this man.
Reprogram your entire raid you've already built just to make Moose happy here. Look, he helped you edit your book. All right.
There you
go. Owe something.
There you go. Throw him a bone.
Okay, so let's talk about the most important part, is how Mel Vieira got introduced into the story and everything else here, and how we're making this a thing. I didn't read it all the way, but I saw that there was some information out there about Mel Vieira within Final Fantasy XIV. What's our story and what's our lore behind the Mel Vieira in the game?
Do you want me to take this one, Sly? You're like looking over at me.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, I'll go first on this one. It really closely followed 12 to a degree, because I think Yoshida really respects Matsuno-san and doesn't want to do anything that's too far away from his creations. So it's just their idea of, if you're a male Vera, as soon as you hit puberty, you're taken away, you're a defender of the wood, and that's it. No one ever sees you again. And pretty much all of the information we have beyond that and what you can learn at 12 in this point is snarky comments made by Matsuno-san on Twitter. And I love that. He was still going about it this morning. Did you follow that at all?
I didn't.
No. What happened?
Okay, so before now, someone jokes with him like, do you like the 12, or do you like these male Vera? And he's like, it's a little different than what I had in mind, but I think it's cool. Like, oh, where do you think it came from? And he's like, well, we never see them, so how do we see them now? It must be Alagon cloning technology. So he's just been shit posting with us at this point. But this morning there was some clarity on one of the things. It's like that you can't distinguish between male and female Vera until they're in puberty. And the easy interpretation there is, well, they don't get a lot of secondary sex characteristics and gender role stereotypes until they're in puberty. Fine. But someone actually asked him, like, point blank, like, if you just had like if you were like laboratory conditions, they're naked, you really can't tell the difference between them. He's like, yeah, no, you can't at all. So I guess just at some point, I think the joke that I liked the most was innies become outies at some point. But yeah, so we don't. Okay. they're indistinguishable until puberty, and then they get carried off to be defenders of the wood.
All right, and I guess maybe something happens, and they're like, "Hey, you can't. We need you over here. You can't defend the wood anymore. The world's gonna end."
Hey, if there's anything to come out for, it's the end of the world.
Yeah, it's true. All right. The other thing is the female Hrothgar. Do we know anything about that? Because it feels like there's a lot of lore behind male VR, but there's not. I didn't actually see anything about female Hrothgar.
Male for Hrothgar, or the lore for male Hrothgar so far hasn't been entirely like gender specific. I think we've just learned a lot about the Hrothgar, and I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to play it off as a coincidence that we didn't see many of them.
So there's like no real explanation to why we only see male Hrothgar right now.
Not that I remember. I could be wrong. I didn't read a lot of this very closely, but I don't remember it. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they were just like, yeah, you were just hanging out in areas where there was a lot of dudes. Go to a different area, you'll see them.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna accept that answer, just because I was content with the way it was. I don't really care how whatever they do. I kind of called it that they're going to introduce the female and male versions of these two races, and that's what they're going to do. They're not going to introduce a technically new race, but they're going to introduce the same workload that would go into making a new race by making, yeah.
That was my guess as well, is that when they said there were no more races, I was like, okay, so when we get to the next one, we're going to do the missing genders, and then the one after that's going to be third clans.
Oh, yeah, that would be actually interesting if they did.
I think 7.0 is going to be more clans.
Okay. All right. The Magus sister says, say that right?
Magus sisters? You didn't say Magnus.
Yeah, I did my best.
You didn't say Magnus this time. Proud of you.
All right. Magus sisters from Final Fantasy 4 and what was the other one that they were from again? 10? 10?
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And apparently they were insects, you said, Moose, in 10?
Yeah, so I don't remember 4 very well at all. So that's the Mega Sisters in my head. Bugs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're going to be completely unique to 14 from what they said. But from our references, what characteristics do these sisters normally have? Like, is there something that like is noteworthy of them from previous games that would probably still apply in 14?
From a lore standpoint, like the thing is, like the thing with the lore standpoint, and this is something I completely forgot, and thank you for reminding me of the Mega Sisters. In the trailer, I forget where it was in the trailer, but you can hear Golbez's theme. The Mega Sisters were, I forget which Archfiend it was. They were working for one of the Archfiends. So my thing is, like, implication wise, it was in a dungeon showcase. Okay. I don't know where they would fit the Archfiends in here. Mm-hmm. Like, if they somehow threw the Archfiends into the Endwalker story, that'd be great. I don't know where they would fit them in though. But yeah, that's one thing I remember is just they were working for one of the Archfiends in 4. 10, they were just a summon. They were just a summon that you fought and could get.
People are saying Barbara Cilia? Barbara Cilia? What? Barbacia?
Barbaricia?
Barbaricia? Oh, Frosty.
Tower of Zot Barbaricia was the boss of that, but Golbez was in charge of the tower. Yeah, Golbez was Golbez was in charge of the Archfiends in general. So yeah, like I kind of hope I do see Golbez in this. That'd be pretty fucking hype. But I don't think it's gonna happen. There's no way to kind of fit it in, like lore wise. I really think it would just get shoehorned in. So pay no attention to my fanboying of Golbez. But yeah, like in 10, they were bugs.
Okay.
In the depiction that we got, the artwork that we got for Endwalker, they have more of a Thabnerian look.
Yeah.
So they could be associated. So they could probably be associated with Dabnir some way, somehow.
Okay. Okay. All right. So keep going.
Yeah. No, I was thinking, like, Moose, did you have anything to add?
Nope. Nope. No, I know they're in 4. I know they're in 12. There were bugs. One's 10. Or 10. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. One's usually a little taller. One's usually a little wider. One's usually a little younger. We saw them in kind of the background of one of the dungeon arts, looking a little weird. We saw them announced. That's all I got. Yeah. In chat, Delta attack. That's all I got.
Delta attack. Okay. Okay.
I remember it's Mindy, Cindy, and somebody else. I can't remember the last one.
Wait, Mindy, Cindy, and Sandy?
Wendy?
Wendy.
I don't know. I'm just
Sandy. Is it Sandy? Okay.
Name one Wendy. Give her an attitude. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Do the one.
Oh, so like little chocolate drinks and stuff, frozen chocolate drinks. Okay, all right. So we talked a lot about the keynote and everything else. Also, we could end up here and talk about what we're going to see in the patch in a few days. So I'm going to tell you my recollection of what I remember from the most recent story quest, and you could tell me how horribly incorrect it is. And this will give you a peer into my mind and why maybe I don't remember things correctly and I don't have a good grasp on a lot of story stuff. Is that I think we were having an issue, and Nidhogg, we went and got Tiamat, right? Estinian was like, hey, you know what, we're buddies. I'll ride you. You know, and rode Tiamat over into the battlefield and just start killing people. And it was... we were fighting some sort of clone copies of primals or something like that. They were like some sort of primals of
the lunar primals.
The lunar primals, yeah, the lunar version. Okay, yeah, of those primals. And we were seeing that's one thing that maybe these towers were making. I don't know. And then Fondola, right? Went with
Fordola.
Fondola. Okay, went with the. One guy that I barely remember at all, but apparently he played a big part in, like, I think the Crystal Braves or something like that, right? And they both have, like, Echo. And then they got attacked, and they barely lived and got out. And they both had a big attitude towards each other. But apparently they became friends through this experience, I believe, in some way, maybe. And that's what I remember. And then at the very end, they were like, Xenos, oh, what weapon? We have so many weapons to pick from. You know, which weapon are you going to pick? He's like, I'm going to pick that one. And we don't see it, but now we know it's a scythe, right?
It's a pillar. It's going to 100% be a pillar because that's what was there.
A pillar? It's just a pillar?
Yeah, like, it's a pillar. Like, he picked a pillar. He's just going to use a pillar. We're not going to be a Reaper. We're just going to be wielding a fucking pillar.
Yeah, a gun scythe. You're right, a gun scythe. Nonetheless, it's a gun scythe. But that's
Moose. How do you do? How do you do? I think you did good. I think you did do. It did good.
Did good. So how close did I get on this story, Moose? How much did I remember? What?
Like enough.
Enough? Okay.
Enough. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to go through it in my head too. Like, I have flashbulb memories of playing through it. So we start with Thancred changing the definition of Magitech, which is where I was stuck for the first hour. I took a break and went to go make sure I wasn't wrong.
Okay.
Magitech used to be ceruleum engine powered, gasoline replacement kind of analog, where it was the superiority over magic. They're going to beat magic. That's why it was called Magitech. There was no magic involved. It was all an engine that did all of the work, and it recreated anything magic would do. So you had, missiles instead of Firaga. And then Thancred comes in and he's like, yeah, it's a machine that manipulates ether, so Magitech. And I'm like, man, we just learned it wasn't Final Fantasy VI Magitech for all these years, and now you're equating the two, and now I'm confused. So that's my first flashbulb memory, but that's not important. We're gonna ignore that.
Okay.
You already ranted about it. So they go and they're like, the flames are prepping for a mission against the towers. The people who went towards them are getting tempered by the towers,
That's
and
right.
suddenly they're loyal to Garlemald. So nobody's quite sure how you can be tempered to a nation. So they're trying to figure that out. They decide to send Arnvald and Fordola in to figure that out because they can't be tempered.
Mm-hmm.
We learn that the inside of the towers are filled with captive beast tribe members who are, summoning the lunar primals.
Mm-hmm.
Arnvald catches a punch to the face and goes into the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We go to Ozzy's Law and find Tiamat, and she's still planning on hanging out there until Estinian kind of insults her honor. So she agrees to come with us for two reasons: one, for vengeance, and two, because the Mericidia mess still needs to clean up. She's gonna call all of those who will still come to her side, and she's gonna kill the rest, put them out of their misery, and that arc is finally gonna be over. So we get her into the battle, take them out to save the Amalja because everything's going crazy there. Trying to think here. Lunar Bahamut, we finally take that thing out. It's a little easier than I expected, and he went out a little faster than I expected, but it might be a hint that the lunar primals aren't like this big thing we have to worry about too hard. So we've still got to beat the rest of the lunar primals in 5.5. We've still got to meet the lady in white. Kryl went to Charleon to petition them to aid in the Telephori research, and whether they do that even is up in the air. See, am I missing anything?
I think that was it before the Xenoscenes. And Estinian becomes a proper scion now, so he's part of the scions.
Okay. So with
big things we have left in the trailer are the rest of the lunar primals, battlefield, and meeting the glowing lady.
Yeah.
Okay. Remind me, what was the glowing lady? I can't remember the glowing lady at all.
She's just hanging out. There's this one brief pan of the camera where the Warrior of Light is standing at Silver Tear Lake, and there's a glowing feminine-ish figure behind them. And it contrasts with Xenos talking about darkness, and she looks like light, so we're all like, yeah, Vana, but well, I'll just be wrong, right?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so with that in place, and with everything we've talked about from what we've seen, where we're going in the expansion, what bridges are we going to see in 5.5, do you think? 5.5. 5. Sorry.
More with the first brood, obviously.
Okay.
Between that and like how we, get to Vritra, or get in contact with Vritra, or where we should go. I'm not going to talk about Baja or Dalriada because that's not central to 5.5 and 5.55 main story. Why is the first brood the only bridge I can make?
It's very difficult, right? You know what? If we go back to Shadowbringers and how it ended in one of the major story patches before going into the expansion, it was basically like all of our friends are gone somewhere, and then we wake up literally, and they're like off to a new world, and then you go, and it's like. The bridge, there isn't like it doesn't feel like there was a huge bridge there. It's just like, hey, they're all being taken somewhere. And then you just like, oh, we found a way. And they just send you off on your own. And you just forget about literally everything. You just, a little magical teleport and you're off into a whole new world. So I feel like we might not get those easy bridges, maybe even within the story. I don't know.
I labor to predict the bridge because I labor to predict which arc of the story is going to come first. We know that several of them go to Charleon. We know that several of them go to Thavnair. When I look at the content of the trailers, I can see that there is clear Charleon content, and I can see that there's clear Thavnairian content. I can see one of the dungeons is inside of a tower in the Near East. There's Matanga kind of enslaved in the walls in it. Vritra is attacking an area near Thavnair, but is that where we go first while they try to labor Charleon? Or do we go to Kryl and Charleon, and because they won't help, go to Thavnair? I can't predict which one is going to be first. I'm struggling with that. So I struggle to predict what bridges we're going to have. But Thavnair is not a surprise to me, like Sly said, politically, because it's at the crossroads of the world. So it would be where we went either way. I always thought it was a bad move to try to pincer the capital from the two continents that we have, because you have that whole south to come to their aid. You would have to defeat the entire south. It's much better to convince Thavnair to give up on Garlemald as a reliable neighbor and allow us passage in and fight our way up and take it on 3 sides if we want the capital. So I think Thavnair was one of the best places we could go if we were going to, go in the Garlean direction. But is that why we go, and when do we go there? So I mean, 5.5 could be anything now, just because I don't know which one of those two is first. Flip a coin.
I mean, yeah, it kind of brings back to how it was in Stormblood, where it was like Alamigo and why do I always? There's so many names. Yeah, Kugane. So you're like, how are you gonna? They could literally do whatever. They can make you star in one area or the other one. It wouldn't change anything.
You bring that up, it's entirely possible we could go to one, then leave, go to the other, and come back to the other one.
Yeah. We're probably going to hop back and forth. Isn't that what we
did for Kugane? No. Well, for Alamigo. Yeah, we kind of did that for Alamigo a little bit.
Yeah, we went to Alamigo. Yeah. Things weren't going great. We decided to split their attention. We spent a lot of time in the Far East, and then we came back and fought Alamigo again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... You know what would be such a debate? Is if they start off like, hey, we got to go to the moon, and you do all your low-level quests on the moon, and then we're just done and we move on.
Go to the moon first. Get the backstory out of the way.
Just get the moon out of the way. It's just, then we'll deal with everything else afterwards. And we end in Broken Garlemald, and that's like what the ending of the game is in Broken Garlemald. And we just don't.
In Restoration quests, please look forward to it.
Yeah. Now that you think about it, there's just so many places that we're going to, so many different areas. It's hard to predict where they want to start the expansion off on. Because I would think, so what we're dealing with right now are the towers. That's in the story, the towers are the thing, right? And the lunar primals and everything else. And so I would assume that we would follow that arc going into 5.5 to bridge into the expansion. And so if we are following the towers, whatever maybe the new primals are, or what we would find new primals, which would be with our friendly elephants that hate Aura and eat them apparently or something, right? From what I was told. That's what I was told. They eat Aura, don't they? No?
The Matanga?
Yeah, Matanga, don't they hate? Isn't there like a...
I'm just hanging because this looks great.
Yeah, that's like, don't they kill Aura? Look, somebody fed me bad lore. I don't know, but I was told that they really hate Aura. They eat them.
There's a clan of Matanga that live in the steppe, and they have very bad blood with the Aura there, and no one knows why yet. So that's going to be lore that's introduced later, is why the Matanga of the steppe really hate the Aura. Is it something that, did they hate them back on their home continent too, or is this, bad blood born here on the steppe? Or, so we don't know what it is, but the Matanga of the steppe really hate the Aura of the steppe and kill them just for fun.
Okay. So I'm a little bit right. I don't know where the eating thing came from.
You're a little, I don't know where that eating thing came from. Like, I'm sorry, that was just hilarious.
I don't know. That's what I was told. I think it was maybe Larry that told me that. Maybe Larry is lying to me.
That sounds like a Larry
that
thing.
checks out.
Holy shit.
That checks.
Yeah.
All right. So I assume that we're going to be dealing with whatever the towers and Save and Beast tribes are. And so maybe we have to go save a new beast tribe, and that maybe starts the expansion. And so we're probably in 5.5 going to deal like what your guys were talking about, the lunar primals and everything, and go and try to, because we were becoming friends with the beast tribes. I think that was like what we were doing around the end too, right? Is that we're trying to team up with all the beast tribes and be friends with them. And that was a big thing with Lenosha, right?
Yeah, it's a goal that we need to meet right now because of the way the story started. This is kind of like deep lore, so it's easy to like overlook. But in 1.0, the Asians' original plan was to get the beast tribes in the cities fighting each other using the primals, so that the Garleans would have pretext to come in, and that whole war was going to be the calamity. So to make peace with the beast tribes once and for all is one of the prerequisites to being able to move towards a conclusion that's stable. And I do feel like they kind of rushed the Lominson one a bit. Like they really need Limsa to be free right now. But yeah, it feels like that peace with the beast tribes is just necessary.
Okay, so maybe that's kind of what all 5.5 is dealing with, is the beast tribes and the towers and everything. I mean, that's what I would assume. And this, again, you know, you guys have this big puzzle and there's a couple of pieces missing. I have this big puzzle and like 5 pieces are in place, and I'm trying to imagine what's in those giant voids that none of the puzzle pieces are next to. And so I'm doing my best, guys.
If it is just the tribes, I'm really curious about like Lunar Odin. Like, why is Lunar Odin there?
I forgot about Odin. Yeah, Odin. We were done with Odin in 2.x. Yeah, as being in the game. You know, we had him as like we had him as an extreme, right? Or was he actually extreme? Or was it just a trial, a regular trial?
Odin was a FanFest trial.
Yeah, he was a FanFest trial. Then they put him in the game as an extreme.
Okay.
That was like first FanFest.
Yeah, I remember doing that. I have my I Beat Odin shirt somewhere around here.
Yeah.
And then he was also... Huh?
I'm an idiot looking for new lore on Thornton, or not Thornton, sorry, on Odin, just because there should be no one to shove in a tower and get him back. So what's he doing here? Are we going to get some new information? But
why'd you pick up Odin, by the way? Did we see Lunar Odin?
Yeah, we did.
Sure.
I think we did. There was Lunar Odin.
Ain't perfect, but...
Lunar Ravana. I know we saw Lunar Ravana.
Yeah, we saw Ravana.
There was something else. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Odin.
Well, who... what was the story behind Odin? Was it not like...
There's a couple of them. There's like the sword. Well, we know the sword is the primal, Xantatsuken. That's the real primal. They connected it to Eureka in a way. I don't know if it's like so connected as that we can definitely say Eureka made Odin, but they were definitely of the same type, the same zeitgeist, the same era. And the way we left it off kind of was there was another story about an Ilzabardian from the north who actually took the weapon. And there was all this other kind of stuff about like the war it had with Alog, and that Wii U and Earth had faced Odin, and there was like all this lore that we never wrapped up on him. So I'm curious if we're gonna get any of that now or not. You
know, all those fucking weapons that Xenos was looking at, they're gonna all put them on walls inside of a tower, and it's gonna summon Odin. That's what they're doing. Yeah, no, I remember like the fog. Like there had to be a weather or something in one of the zones, and it was like part of the hunt train almost. Like you go in there and you try to get special stuff from. Yeah, I remember. That was a long time ago.
Someone would kill him. Everybody would pat themselves on the back. Someone would pick up the sword. A new Odin would be born.
Oh yeah, and it would be the player. Yeah, it'd be the player. Yeah, that was good. Why don't they do? They don't have open world stuff like that at all anymore. I kind of wish they did. I mean, we have hunts, but
it doesn't have the lore roots that it used to have. But we still like have fates where we go out and get our frog suits and stuff.
I guess that's true. I guess. All right. So I think that's all I had on my list here. The thoughts and stuff to kind of go over. Did you guys have anything else that you're like? Sly, this is your chance. I know you usually pick the brain of Ethos. Is there anything you wanted to pick the brain of Moose here?
in terms of everything for Endwalker, I think you kind of covered pretty much all I wanted to cover. So good job.
You had a pretty good spread of the knowns. Like anything that we haven't talked about is something we don't have a clue to talk about yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why Sly was so pissed off at everyone on Gillionaire and not. How many answers did you know? Did you know all the answers to all the questions, Sly?
Not all of them. I did remember. What was the question about Althic? The
very first one, the 12. Like which one was? Yeah.
The Nightfall company. That was Zonde's company, right?
That was the only one I didn't know. I didn't remember. Like, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life wondering what would have happened. But I went through all the answers in my head, and I went, Garlemald wouldn't do it. I went, that was the Darklight Raiders. They weren't mercenaries. And then I had this like momentary internal struggle of, am I being baited to choose Mahawk when it's the Allagons? But like the only thing in my head was like the sun was good PR for Allag. Why would they want Nightfall? The sun is the Crystal Tower. The sun's on the Emperor's, on the sash of the Emperor. You wouldn't want Nightfall. And then like, so I allowed myself to be baited into Mahawk. And maybe 30 seconds after I said it, I was like, oh, that's the fucking Nightkin. So I was like, I'm going to spend the rest of my life wondering if I had thought of Nightkin earlier, would I have allowed myself to say Allag? And I don't know that I would, but I didn't know, I didn't remember. But looking back, it's like, yeah, the Mericidian sun is the one that's setting. And I'm like, like, yeah, so no, I didn't know that one. I totally forgot that Omega Terminal line.
It doesn't
so
matter.
If you remember,
got the points anyways. Fucking shit, dude. Yeah, no, that's I didn't know. Again, I didn't know a single answer to any of them, and that's just what my experience with lore and story and everything else. But I am looking forward to all the YouTube comments about how I shouldn't be on these lore shows and everything else coming after we put this on YouTube later on. The worst YouTube comments are always after the lore and story shows. It's just every single time. Huh?
Try not to read them. But I was trying to explain this to someone else. If you only get the best of the best, you're going to get like a tense, serious platform. Like if you want a good, entertaining thing, sometimes you need people who only know it a little bit and just make them fight, make them have fun. That's like, I think you couldn't have gotten kind of a better cast than the one we got together. Like we could get some comparable casts going, but like, is there any way they missed an opportunity? I don't know. Like more primal representation, obviously, right? It's like,
yeah,
I compared it to a PvP competition. If you want a fierce, exciting PvP competition to find the best of the best, you're going to get a different crowd than we just want to show off the PvP in an entertaining way. And if you actually got members of the dev team who barely play the game to fight each other, that might even be funnier. Like, you don't know. So I think we did great. I think I had a great time.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I loved it. And even though I had to play on EU servers, it was good. It was good because technically I was on the EU team, huh?
They did a whole different spread of content creators and do it again. Like,
yeah. Why not?
Yeah,
why not? And I'll come and host it. I'll help. I'll help. Host it. I would love that. But I think that I do hope that they reach out, and I think the JP community as well was like super like, hey, we need more of this stuff in the JP community as well.
The comments I saw from the JB community were really kind of like wholesome. Like the one that stuck out to me was the idea that they don't play like that very often, where they're just screwing around and having fun with friends and laughing, and the idea of doing that in kind of a low pressure trivia situation was really attractive to them. I thought that was really interesting.
Pressure may be not the word, but I felt pretty pressure. I was doing my best, man. I'd
love to see JP players do this. Bring it on.
Yeah. And I think that we'll see how it goes. We still have 6 months to fill before the expansion comes out. I'm sure, hopefully, SE can find some little events and stuff. But that being said, I guess we can go ahead and start wrapping up the show and everything. It's been a blast. And Sly, it's been so long since I had you on here. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me on. And Moose, it was a pleasure being on with you. This is such a it's such a welcome contrast to Ethis. Don't get me wrong. Like Ethis is my boo.
There's one I can do.
That's my boy. But yeah, we would love to one day have you on Say It Around with Ethis. That would just be such an amazing show.
That hasn't happened
yet. Thank you so much for. No,
that's one of the reasons I was excited about this, because I only know Sly from watching other shows. We've never even had like a regular conversation together. This is the first time we've got to hang out, and I had a great time meeting you like this.
Well, yeah, awesome. You got to fix that, dude. You got to fix that, Sly.
We will.
One of the reasons I love your show.
What? What reasons why you like my show? Because you can go.
Yeah, because I new people and talk about things in new ways. You always have great shows like this, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, and maybe we should kick at this off more shows.
He's gonna be listening on plane and go through a certain type of way. Like, what the fuck happened on MogTalk?
I was about to say the same thing. He's gonna be walking off the plane like that son of a bitch.
He knew Gillionaire was gonna be at the end of him, dude. And there you go. No, we just need to. We can have more than just Ethis and Moose on here on the next lore one too. Maybe Sly's gonna be part of the cast too. We'll bring him in, because apparently that guy knows fucking way more than I know about lore.
I'm required to study it. That's it.
Okay.
Ethis kind of forces that.
Sly, where can people find you?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Sly, aka Greyfox. You can find me on Twitter at Sly the Fox. Yeah.
All right.
And simple.
That's super simple. Moose, what last words you got here, and shout outs or anything you want to do?
Shout outs. Geez, just thanks for having me on. As always, it's an honor to be invited anywhere, especially here. If you want to find me anywhere, I'm at Anonymoose XIV on Twitter. I lurk around the forums too much. I'm in Gamer Escape's room all the time. We got a lore room. Really, anywhere with a lore room, I'm stalking somewhere. I'm on Ethis's Discord. I'm on every Discord. So bother me anywhere. DM me, send me something, whatever. I'll hang out.
You might put a little bit of stipulation on what they can send you, but I mean, whatever you.
This is not blanket permission for anything, but it's lore related. Hit me.
Yeah. All right, and then you don't do any streaming literally at all, do you, Moose?
Not right now. I'm looking in, I've been in grad school hell for the last 2-3 years, so I'm looking forward to engaging some of my hobbies a bit more in a new way. Streaming might be part of it. We'll see.
I did a shout out command. It says follow over here. Last was playing ... That is okay.
Dude, I don't think I'm actually logged in aside from to chat with people on your show.
Nice. Anyways, please follow. It's Anonymoose on Twitter is where a good common place I find you. So I mean, other than just Discords and everything else. And Sly, did I skip over you and shout outs and everything else? Did you do your shout outs? Did I forget?
Shout out to of course my boy Mr. Happy, of course Ethis, who's on the plane and is probably out of a job now. Shout out just to the 14 community. You guys are fucking amazing. Shout out to everybody. Just thank you again, Frosty, for having me on.
Of course, dude. I love you, man. It's so much fun to have you on. So that all being said, guys, you are all fantastic for coming and watching today. And of course, special shout out to Ethis. Again, couldn't make it here. Of course, we would have had him on if we could. But I figured it was good to have the show right before the patch so we can have all these discussions and for the excitement of what's going to happen in the story and everything else. And we're going to have more of these shows, of course, in the future because there's a lot to talk about, especially post-patch 5.5 and before Endwalker is released, because we're going to have a lot more information coming forward. That being said, special shout out to my wife, Kerberos, for being amazing and allowing me to do this every single weekend without, making fun of me too much. And then thank you very much to all the viewers, to all the mods, to everyone who supports on Patreon, subs, everyone. If you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this through whatever podcast service you're using, I appreciate you for your support. And I guess next week is kind of a question mark. I'm trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do for that show. I will go ahead and give you guys an early heads up. After next week, we're going to have a 2 weeks period where there's not going to be any shows. It's going to be quiet for those 2 weeks, but we will be having one next week. That is the plan. Enjoy. You know what? Maybe we need to talk about 5.5. Maybe that's the show. Why am I thinking about this? This is a 5.5 show. We just have that show, next week, and we talk about Save the Queen and all that good stuff. I'm a fucking idiot. Anyways, that's what we're going to do next week. Guys, have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and see you next time. Everybody wave, say bye!
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching the show. Here is, of course, our moment where we thank all of our Patreon supporters, all the people who make the show happen and help sponsor MogTalk. First, let me go ahead and thank the organizations. Awk Morning, ran by Nimic, a great rating resource. There's also Teamcraft, a great crafting resource by Super Miyu. And then there's Phase Temperance, who is an organization ran by Uni to help the competitive PvE scene kind of grow a little bit. My mouth's not working too well, but hopefully it's okay. My eyes are a little bit better this time. I also want to thank Antonio, Dude is Antonio, D Fury, Dr. Dirk, Daniel H, and Megan C, and Nami, all for being great contributors and sponsoring MogTalk. If you guys are interested in sponsoring MogTalk, just look for the MogTalk Patreon, and we appreciate all your help. We have, mugs and T-shirts and all that good stuff. But yeah, I really appreciate all you guys. You make the show happen, and I hope, this is my way of saying thanks to you, and you guys all have a very wonderful rest of your weekend. All right, bye guys.